Hello, welcome to Pure Soul Alchemy. I'm Gabriela Espinosa, and I'll be taking us through a psychic surgery treatment for the next 20 minutes. So find a nice, comfortable place where you can lay down and relax while you receive the session. Pure Soul Alchemy is a transmission of channeled shamanic operations through my perception and vocalization of the inner energetic grid. We are opened in ways which allow these technologies to come through into our physical reality and enact change on our behalf. Allow your mind to relax into the words and phrases as they're coming through. No need to try to interpret what they mean or apply them to your life. Just relax and let them flow through, in and through you. It's quite helpful to replay this session over and over to deepen the effects of the healing that takes place. And if you find this session helpful, please click the like, subscribe, and little bell buttons, and that way you'll be informed of new and future sessions. So today's show is a shamanic healing to remove entity attachments, but also more importantly, to support you in releasing any attachments that you may be having towards them. It may sound kind of crazy, but often we develop attachments unconsciously, of course, to some of the entities that hang around in our field. Like, for example, if you feel disempowered, there may be an entity that provides a false sense of empowerment. If you feel undeserving or unworthy, there may be an entity that provides feeling worthy or entitled or better. And, you know, while this may sound like an ideal relationship, it may sound like a good thing to feel better. It's never better because it keeps you from working on and through your own core issues, and it keeps you in a perpetual state of deficit. So removing them and focusing, shifting your focus back to doing your own inner work is the most loving thing that you can do for yourself, the planet, and your family. So before listening to the session, have the intention of deeply letting go of any attachment you may be unconsciously holding towards any entity attachments, and we'll focus on clearing these in our session. So now take some slow, deep breaths. And as you are deeply breathing, feel into your body. Notice where you feel any tension, any pain, any numbness. And envision your breathing reaching these areas, bringing life force and vitality there. Allow this to continue as we go through our session today. So beginning with our invocation, connecting with our divine physical and non-physical intelligence to align completely with our own core essence. Aligning with the fundamental and essential aspects of ourselves. Aligning with the earth, the sun, the moon, with our own Mother, Father, God self, with our own inherent creator self, and a right placement in the universe. The purest healing source within us is our own deepest aspect. We agree to serve as our own healing agent and to serve from and as our own ultimate inner counsel, the all that I am. We now invoke, welcome, and receive our beloved Mother and Father God to exact their loving, divine, blessed grace directly into our healing proceedings today. So healing point number 1, healing any misguided default patterns of projecting inadequacy, deficiency, lack-based feelings onto others and external situations. So this is a process to support us in more easily and readily bringing our focus back inward when there is a time where we need to do some self-examination rather than looking externally. So that's what this process is for. Deepening into the loving commitment to focus on healing our own internalized distortions. Initiating a gentle release of dependency on external concepts and false stability structures. Right, so implementing a healing for the underlying pattern of seeking answers or information as an attempt to avoid dealing with what is within. This also covers, it's like, looking for answers out there, but also, well, let me think about it and think about it. But that's not going to solve the problem. That's not going to solve anything. It's a distraction. Great. So we're just going to sit with those processes a little longer. Initiating a powerful healing of projections, deflections, distractions that keep detrimental patterns and entities in place. Great, so healing point number 2, power grid rehabilitation. We want to do a healing of uncontrolled esoteric structures. Initiating the firming up of our drive, commitment, dedication to our authentic beingness, to presence, and our commitment towards facing any inner conflicts. And working on them from the inside. Great, so we're going to do some clearing in the heart, cleansing in the heart. And what I'm feeling here is the fear of letting go of maybe some of these old comfortable, like comfortable old shoes, these old patterns. So we want to assist our heart in letting go and finding the comfort within truth, within presence, within loving, kind, relating with ourselves and others. Coming into contact with faith that we will get through it, that we can work through it, whatever it is. Bringing in loving support in choosing what's real, choosing what's true and what's real. Initiating, implementing a deconstruction of any hidden attachments we may be holding to entity attachments. Any hidden investment that we may have unbeknownst to ourselves. Releasing the unconscious perception of entities as beneficial. And redirecting our loyalties to truth, no matter what it is. Releasing unconscious perception of any entities or energies, the misperception that they are beneficial. So that's what we are demolishing. All right, so we're going to do some more fear, releasing from the heart area. And that's where I'm feeling it, but it may be located somewhere else in your field. So deep releasing, letting go of fear. And it's just basically fear of change. Great. So for this next healing point number 3, we're going to actually do some direct removal of entity attachments. And this is a list I've comprised of names that came to me. It's certainly not all encompassing, all inclusive, but we'll go down this list. And if any others that I couldn't contact our name, we're going to, put the intention that those get addressed as well. Great. So first one, false power supply entities. We're going to do a removal of false power supply entities. Removing false power supply entities. Okay, this is an interesting that's just popping up. Lack of vocation entity attachments. Don't know what that means, but let's remove those entities. Great, and let's do a removal for false bravado entities. Okay, so this next one, it's basically, I'm naming it what it does. So the evacuated self due to unexamined and suppressed guilt entities. So we're removing those, the ones that do that. So we're going to sit with that for a bit. All right, still clearing fear. It can be very frightening for us to let go of something that we're normalized to or used to, at least initially. Great, so let's clear fear in the throat chakra, heart, and back of the body. Right, so removing perpetual victimhood entities and false identities. So hopefully you're laying down and receiving this, but if you can be laying down and doing some deep breathing when and if you feel any intensity come up, that just means that the process is really working you. So some breath awareness and slow, steady breathing can really help to move these processes along. All right, so next one, we're going to removal of self-righteous entities. Removal of righteous indignation entities. And removing an entity that, I guess it projects self-portrayal of being at a loss. So removing those entities. Great. And so while that's going, let's clear the back of the body, the entire back of the body. Let's clear rigid energetic standpoints. Resetting to optimized vision, visual acuity, and intake. And grounding in the light. Great. So next one, removing addiction entities. And there's two kinds that I'm seeing here. One is the addiction entity that comes in when one has indulged indulged in an addiction cycle. Entities will swoop in. I mean, it's almost unavoidable that, if you do any kind of addiction, whether it's hard drugs or watching movies, entities will come in. So those are the ones in group A, and the other ones are the addiction entities that kind of incite you and kind of entice you to participate in the addiction. Persuade, you can call them addiction persuasion entities. Great, so we're clearing those, removal of those. Removing defeatism entities. Removing unworthiness, undeservedness entities. Those that try to convince you of unworthiness and undeservedness. Great. And removing sexual overfocus and hyperarousal entities. With the intention of coming into your true, authentic, sensual flow, rather than playing out some entity's agenda. Great, and let's do something to assist reconnection, strengthening connection with one's true, authentic, sensual flow, sensual expression. Removing anger, rage, and outrage entities. Again, just like with the addiction one, there are anger, rage, and outrage entities that kind of coax you to, oh, you should be pissed about that. They kind of try to get you even more angry than you may be feeling or act out. And then you've got the other ones that will come in once you've already started engaging in hyper anger or hyper rage. They're kind of like tag team wrestling, these guys. Sorry, I don't mean to make jokes, but kind of have to laugh at this stuff to keep it light. Great, so we're just going to hang out and remove those two subsets of anger, rage, outrage entities. Okay, and let's also begin removal of counterproductive affairs entities. And I'm going to keep that nice and general because it can be applied in many different ways for different people at different times. All right, so we're going to do another removal of an entity, and this it's named for what it does: psychological enrichment deficit entities. So we're removing those. Removing loss of self entities, or entities that make you believe you've lost yourself. You know, you can never lose yourself, but they kind of deal in confusion and veiling. So we're just going to hang with that a little longer. Seems like it's a little more intricate than my conscious mind can grasp, but that's okay. The clearing is handling it. All right, and let's do a removal of rumination entities. This is where you just keep ruminating and thinking about something in cycles over and over, and there's no end. And it's just it's like a preoccupation cycle, but there's entities that hang out there and try to coax you to do that. Great, we're going to do a removal of fear of failure entities. Fear of failure. So I'm not even going to try. Just going to stay here and hang out with these entities. Great, so we're just going to, yeah, so let's hang out there a little longer and clear deeper. Clearing, removal of fear of failure entities. Great, and so where that catches on is deeper and hidden insecurities. So let's do a clearing of insecurities. Places where we doubt ourselves, doubt our capacity, and may have lost contact with our faith in ourselves and our courage. So doing a healing there. And at the same time, removal of these fear failure entities. Great. And so let's also do a removal of fear mongering entities. Those type try to get you to be afraid of everything. And a good thing to do when you're experiencing that, you know, hyper fear response is ask yourself, what would I feel like, or what would the situation be if I wasn't believing this fear? Removing submission or submissive entities that coax us into a submissive stance. Removing communication impairment entities. And lastly, removal of the quote unquote, I'm right, you're wrong entity. The entity that tries to get you in that space, because it's really going to lock you down from healing your stuff. Removing the I'm right, you're wrong entities. So resetting to a new normal of a clear and clean energy field. Setting a new commitment to always question where a thought or impulse is coming from. If it's dark, if it feels off, if it's not loving or it's unkind, then it's not you, it's an entity or energy attachment. The main thing is to always question where it's coming from. And we're going to do, for healing point number 4, we're going to do a cleansing. We're going to do an entity cleansing from your home. Also cleansing of residual past trauma, crisis crystallizations. This is for the house where you live. Upgrading the energetic template of the house for wellness, well-being, emotional and psychological stability, harmonious relationships, and transmitting a general cleansing for all members of the household, including pets and plants. So we're now bringing our session to a close. Thank you so much for tuning into Pure Soul Alchemy. If you found this session helpful, please click all those little buttons so then you get notified of future sessions. I highly recommend that you listen to the session repeatedly. This will deepen the effects of the session and take the healing further. To schedule an individual session and for more information, visit www.puresoulalchemy.com. This is Gabriella. Have a wonderful day.